ask you a real question quickly. Should we legalize pot?
I think that should be up to the people of the state.
What about on the federal level? Should we legalize it and stop arresting people because they transport it?
We should get the government out of it.
Okay, all right.
What about drugs? What about...
You can ask your question.
My question is, I posted this on your blog, I posted it campaign office, I get to it.
You're talking too fast for a guy from Georgia.
The question I've been asking a lot, I'm not voting for any of your opponents. I'm in the same position as the other gentleman. It's either you or I sit home and don't vote. You talk about, you say a lot that the federal war on drugs has failed. Now that can mean two things. It could mean one, it shouldn't exist to begin with, or number two, it should at least be revamped, not include marijuana. Marijuana should be legalized or up to the states, but should there at least be a federal war on cocaine? Recreational use cocaine. Should the federal government have a stance on it, one or the other?
To me, it is not a federal issue.
So there's no federal war on drugs. Good.
That is correct. It needs to be handled, if at all, by the states. The people of the states should make those decisions.
Should be revamped, it should be eliminated.
Yeah,
what we war on drugs should be eliminated.
Yes, what we ought to be concentrating on is violent crime.
Correct.
I mean, if somebody takes somebody's life, I don't care whether they're doing it as part of a drug transaction or because they want to take their money away. That's what we ought to be focusing on. We have more people in jail now. We're spending more money now on putting people in jail and keeping them there for simple drug possession than for all the other violent crimes.
When the Colombia Free Trade was being debated, you arguing in support of continuing aid to Colombia. Part of the rationale for your support was, quote, Colombia is our valued ally in the federal war on drugs, therefore, ... we shouldn't dry up federal funding to them. You didn't explicitly say you were in favor of the federal war on drugs, but you used an implicit support for the federal war on drugs to support why you think we should keep giving aid to Colombia. Unless I'm misreading your article, it's written years on.
No, when I wrote that, you're absolutely correct. But there are some very sound reasons other than Colombia's assistance in drugs and war on drugs. And by the way, I do think that if we have an ally, whether it's Colombia or a country overseas, that we go to and say, please help us with this public, whatever the policy is, and they do, then we ought to support them. There are, though, other very good reasons to be supporting the Uribe regime in Colombia. And one of those is the fact that the FARC, the leftist guerrilla group down there, is holding 3 Americans as hostage and has been for about 5 years now.
You the war on drugs is one of the reasons when now you're telling me you're against the war on drugs altogether.
I did say that, and I'm not saying that we should not help Colombia. I think we should help Colombia. I think there are some very good reasons. First of all, we ought to be trying to get the 3 American citizens that are being held by the FARC down there. The FARC is a leftist organization that has taken action both against the United States and against our allies, violent action. I am not an isolationist, and I think there are some very good reasons that have nothing to do with the drug war for continuing to help the Colombian government. Pardon?
Then why cite the drug war at all in the article? Why not mention the reason the 3 prisoners, etc.?
I'll issue a revised article.
That would the libertarian blogosphere would read the sigh of relief.
Thank you.
Well, let's take 1 or 2 more questions, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you got to catch the movie. You got to, or you're.
I'm not worried about that. I've been there. I've seen myself.
Oh.
we do have to meet some other folks.
Oh, very good. Let's take 1 more question so everyone can shake his hand afterwards. Yes, Mr. Nice T-shirt.
Thank you. I've been a Ron Paul supporter since the revolution, and I happen to be from Georgia as well. And I, talking to my
parents. What's a nice guy like you doing in a place like this?
I have no idea. Talking to my parents about Ron Paul, and at first they were just like, no, he's just too far out there. He's just too far out there. And I think because of his very strong stance, and I agree with most of all his principles. And like you guys said here, we need to be strong about principles. And I'm not saying that we should shake on that, but because he was so strong, he has not been able to do as well in the election now. And I'm just wondering what should be our approach, knowing that we want to turn the hearts and minds of America. Is it to try and go out there as strong as we can and to not, as Alexis Tocqueville pointed out in 1830, Americans don't listen to extremists. You got to be middle road or they won't count you. Should our approach be to go on hard and fast and strong with these principles and to not be listened to? I mean, what's going to be your approach in the debates that are going to be coming?
What I think it's important to keep in mind is, as I said earlier, and as I think somebody else said, everybody is a libertarian in their heart. At least most. I mean, there are some dyed-in-the-wool socialists out there. No doubt about that. At least two of them have been running for president in the Democrat Party. But people understand what freedom really is. But what I think the challenge for us in the Libertarian Party is to recognize that it's not just the principles and the message and the vision itself that's important. It's how you present it, just the language that we use to present it, the people that we use. You have to take those principles of freedom that people do understand, but you have to present it to them in a way that doesn't scare them. And that means incrementally. You're not going to go from where we are today with regard to the war on drugs to all drugs being legalized tomorrow. And if you present it in that way, as sort of black and white to people, you're going to tune them out. They're never going to come on board. You have to start talking about doing these things incrementally. The philosophy doesn't have to be watered down at all, but you have to present it in a way that doesn't scare people, that they feel comfortable with. You have to make it relevant to them, rather than talking about just sort of esoteric principles of freedom, as important as that is, vital. You have to talk to them about the education of their children. Just talking about getting the government out of education isn't going to reach but a small percentage of the people who realize how many billions we're wasting on that nonsense, and how much, how absolutely devoid of any proper constitutional basis it is for the federal government to be involved in education. You have to talk to them about what education means to them, the amount of money that's being wasted, what that could do in their pockets. We're talking about the court decision out in California that says parents have no constitutional right to educate their children the way they see fit. I mean, that's the sort of thing that the average family can understand. Talk to small business people in terms of the fact that we spend more money in government regulating those businesses than the government even takes in taxes. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. Something like 40 or more % of the federal budget is just regulating businesses. That's something that the small business person can understand. Jay Wallace is here. Jay's a small businessman down in Georgia. Runs he runs a firearms. He's a firearms and sporting goods retailer down in Georgia. He's being sued by Mayor Bloomberg. He's one of those cases you all have been reading about. Look at cases, familiarize yourself with instances like that, so you can talk with people at the level that they understand. If they're small business people, if they're homeschooling parents, whatever it is. So you've got to have that strong foundation in the philosophy of our country. There is nothing that is not mainstream about libertarianism. You just have to make it relevant to the people that we're talking to in language that they understand, so it doesn't scare them.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all. Thanks again.
Thank you to Bob Barr and to our debaters, Ken Silber and Avery. Sign up to receive emails if you haven't already. Stay to drink and tip your bartender well. And remember, amongst our panelists on the topic of egg sales next month will be Reason magazine editor Kerry Howley. And as it happens, the July issue of Reason, which I have in my hand, has on its cover the issue of whether birth rates are falling in a frightening way. So that makes it even more timely that she'll be here. Personally, I'm inclined to think that no matter what demographic trends are occurring, the media makes it sound like a crisis. So more people, less people, whichever.
And stick around to shake Mr. Barr's hand.
It's still going to be a crisis. But anyway, we'll worry about that next month. And in the meantime, please talk and take a picture of Mr. Barr if you want to.
Is that out? I haven't seen that one yet.
No, it's just
I take it.